Hi, Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Friday, July the 1st. News this morning includes the release of the annual results of Arkansas students taking the ACT test, the college admission test, the most popular college admission test. The state education department characterizes the results as, quote, holding steady, unquote. What they mean, of course, is there was no improvement in Arkansas test scores. We still lag behind the rest of the country. We also showed pretty bad scores when you broke the scores down among the 4 subject areas, reading, math, and that sort of thing. We didn't come close to a majority ready for college work in any of the 4 categories, and in some of the categories the percentage ready for college work was quite small, in the teens. There was one small piece of good news: the gap between black and white students narrowed a bit, but that was only because the scores of white students fell. Black student scores held the same. On the Arkansas blog today, I rounded up some news from yesterday that was in the morning newspaper from the Hutchinson administration and called it the Day of the Unicorns. You could also call it voodoo economics. You could also call it a lot of other things, but what it is a good arithmetic. The governor said yesterday, for example, that he wants the highway lobby to come up with a plan to produce more money for highway spending, but no tax increases. We learned yesterday that the prison population is likely to continue to rise by 30% over the next 10 years. This will cost tens of millions of dollars. We don't want to let people out of prison because that would be too soft on criminals. And remember, we don't want a tax increase. We learned also yesterday that the cost of the Medicaid expansion program, which is a great thing for Arkansas, is going to cost an additional $300 million over the next 5 years. That's not really a big amount in a $9 billion budget, but the state's going to have to come up with $70 million. Again, remember, no tax increases. We'll find someplace else to cut. The governor always assumes that there's going to be places to cut from the budget to pay for all these things he wants, but he also says schools are off limits. So no money for highways, no money for prisons, no money for Medicaid, no money for schools that doesn't come from somewhere else. I'm not sure who's to be cut. As I joked this morning, maybe the state apiary board, which regulates beekeepers in Arkansas. Late last night, state police and White County authorities arrested a man who'd been sought for a shooting in Heber Springs. He was jailed without incident after a police chase. He killed one man and wounded the man's wife. Good news from the federal courts today. We often have reason to be thankful for them. In Florida, a federal court struck down a law that prevented abortion providers from operating without having a doctor with admitting privileges, and also cut off money to Planned Parenthood, not for any improper use, but just because they were Planned Parenthood. In Indiana, a federal judge said that a married same-sex lesbian couple should both be listed on the birth certificate of their child, just the same as a man is presumed to be a parent, even though he might be the father of a child that was artificially inseminated. And in Mississippi, there was a ringing decision from a federal judge that struck down a Mississippi law that established a religious pretext to discriminate against gay people in housing, employment, and public services. I mention all these things not only because I think these are good outcomes in each of the federal court cases. You may disagree, but all of these laws have parallels in Arkansas. We're trying to keep money from Planned Parenthood. We're trying to impose undue burdens on places that provide abortions, even by medication. We're fighting to keep lesbian couples from being listed on the birth certificates of their children. We've created a religious exception that allows people to discriminate in the name of religion. And by the way, not all religions hold the view that gay people should be discriminated against. So these are cases that are already in federal court in Arkansas, or soon to be. They seem certain to be losers too. We could wish the legislature would stop passing unconstitutional laws, but we know that's a vain wish. Bill Clinton, our former governor and the former president, habit of glad handing has caused him trouble once again. You may have read that he went on an airplane in Phoenix when he turned up on the same tarmac with the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch. They spent a half hour, they say, talking about grandkids and golf and nothing else. Unfortunately, the Justice Department is currently investigating Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server. It's a big controversy, you may be aware. She said today that, of course, she won't have a role in deciding what the Justice Department does in terms of prosecution of that case. Really, she was never likely to be able to do this anyway, as Obama's Attorney General, and the president, of course, is supporting Hillary Clinton for president. Politics were going to be used against her no matter what she did. Everybody in Arkansas is talking about and seems happy that prosecutors in Garland County have decided not to press a criminal charge against a 70-year-old grandmother who took a switch to her 12-year-old grandchild for misbehaving and left welts on her leg. This seems to be using a weapon to damage a child seems to be well thought of as just normal discipline in Arkansas. I tend to hold with the view that you never hit a child, certainly not to raise whelps on their legs, but I may be in the minority on that. That's not unusual. It's July 4th weekend. Get some pork and barbecue it. That's my advice for you. That'll certainly make you happier. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back next week.